Today's episode is brought to you by FreedomProject Academy. Looking for a K-12 classical online school built on Judeo-Christian values? FPA is enrolling now for the fall. Request your free information packet at freedomforschool.com. That's freedom, F-O-R, school.com.
It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Before we get started, as always, hit that share button. That will help us educate more people around the country. Today, we kick things off with our international correspondent, the one, the only, Alex Newman. Alex, thank you for your time today, and we welcome you.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you so much, Duke.
Well, I think if anybody's paying attention, if you are a awake American, not a woke one, an awake one, and you are paying attention to government, it must seem obvious to everybody that we no longer have constitutional controls. We no longer have representative say in what is happening in our government. And the case in point for today, Joe Biden, without any election, without any referendum, without consulting Congress, without having anything to do with mom and dads who pay for these public schools, is imposing more and more trans extremism on school children. Again, supra-governmentally doing this. Talk about that.
Well, it truly is incredible that we're at a stage in our country now where we have a president, and really the president's not making these decisions. His handlers are putting stuff in front of him to sign. But we have handlers of a president who think that they can just completely reshape society using nothing but an executive edict. And so this new executive order that Biden signed this week is mind-blowing in its breadth, Duke. And I think probably the most alarming thing, and there are many alarming components of this, but to me, the most alarming thing is that you don't even have to really read between the lines. It makes the case that not affirming a child's delusions about their gender is basically hurting the children. And so, then that sets into motion all of the consequences for that, where the schools need to then actively intervene. It makes available, it instructs the Department of Health and Human Services to work with state governments to make sure gender-affirming care is available to children. And when you read through the fake rhetoric, what they're really talking about here is they want to put children on life-altering hormones, puberty blockers, which they claim are reversible, but which are absolutely not. They want to get children prepared for and then give them access to mutilation of their genitals, surgical mutilation of their genitals, breast removal for little girls. It's unconscionable. And what's going to happen, it also wages war against what's called conversion therapy. And they've actually expanded what they mean by conversion therapy. Now, conversion therapy is not just going to a therapist who's going to try to help somebody deal with unwanted same-sex attraction or confusion about one's gender or sex. What this does is it basically casts a very wide net to the point where even telling a child, like, honey, you're actually a boy, or you're actually a girl, you're not a gender or pangender or trigender or transgender, that can be regarded as not affirming them, and then that can be dealt with very seriously by school officials, even child welfare authorities. So very, very dangerous what's happening here, Duke. It's unconscionable.
Yeah, can you imagine any other aspect of parenthood where the federal government says you must agree with whatever your child says, and if you even dare to contradict them, that can be punishable up by losing the child. It's very interesting in your article. You mentioned at one point that the working group that oversaw that is helping the Biden administration invoke all of these new really Orwellian changes is a homosexual and transgender working group. Talk to me about that. Who are the people who are advising our government behind the scenes?
So, yeah, one of the things that this order does is it creates this, they've added more letters to it. Now it's called an LGBTQI plus working group. And this working group is going to be overseeing the implementation of this. So they're going to be working with state governments, with educational institutions, with school districts, and with multiple agencies to try to push this agenda all across the country. And, this is going to be in blatant defiance of state laws, right? All across the country, Republican states are passing laws protecting girls' sports. They're passing laws protecting children from this kind of indoctrination. They're passing laws protecting children against genital mutilation and things like this. And so what this working group is set to do, again, the working group on LGBTQI+, I think the Q is for queer, and I'm not sure what the I is, maybe intersex. The Q might be for questioning. I'm not sure. They keep adding stuff to it. But this working group is basically going to be waging all-out war on traditional family, on biblical values, on even on biological reality. I mean, and you made a great point, Duke. Any other issue, everybody would recognize that this is absurd. If my child said they were a walrus, as Matt Walsh pointed out in his book, everybody realizes it would be absolutely insane to suggest that the child is actually a walrus and to start treating him like a walrus. If my anorexic daughter said that she was morbidly obese and needed liposuction, people would regard you as a criminal if you actually took your daughter in to go get liposuction. And yet, if your daughter claims she's a boy, then it's regarded as harmful to the child not to take them to have their breasts removed, not to take them to have their genitals mutilated permanently and disfigured and turned into, a fake new organ. It's unbelievable that we're even talking about this, Duke. It feels weird just to be talking about it, and yet this is what's coming out of the White House right now.
Yeah, and I want to just throw this in at the end. Now do you understand, America? Those of you who think the public school system is a good thing, those of us who dismissed us, who questioned it, because think about this. What is the mechanism in this country? What is the conduit? What is the pipeline that allows the federal government to feed this into our kids, regardless of what Republican governors say, regardless of what laws we pass to ban this kind of stuff? It's the public school system. It's absolutely clear that the public school system doesn't educate our kids, but it has 60 million kids at its disposal, and they feed this stuff through that conduit. This is why your founding fathers made no provision for public schools.
Exactly right, Duke. And, we do have a systemic problem in this country. It's not systemic racism. It's systemic indoctrination, sexualization, confusion, and dumbing down of our children. That is the key issue facing our nation. We've got to deal with it.
With all the censorship taking place on social media platforms, we've made it easy to keep up with your favorite content. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app in your app store. Get access to 18 new videos a week, plus thousands of archived shows, lecture series, and educational animations. Download the Freedom Project Media app on your Apple TV, Roku, tablet, or phone, and make sure you allow for notifications to keep you informed.
I hope you had a most splendid Father's Day weekend, full of good times, with a little grilling and a cookout, maybe taking in a baseball game, and of course, going for a bike ride.
Dr. Brown, how was your anniversary? Somebody call 911!
I'm sorry, did I just see what I think I saw? It doesn't look right.
A message was just patched up to the cockpit for you. I'm not sure I've got it right. POTUS in a bicycle accident?
You got it right.
Oh. Well then, let's see it again, from a different angle.
Hey now!
Of course, Joe Biden's first action is to go by the one child standing there. If the kid had an ice cream cone, he would have ridden over the moon to get there faster. But for real, is he okay?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah. Keep up the good work. I keep on taking these things off. I got my foot caught in it.
Mr. President, made up your mind on China tariffs, Mr. President.
And I'm ready to go. All right, guys. See you.
Well, that's a good thing. A 79-year-old man falling is never a joke, and I hope we all agree on that.
We do hope that Biden's okay, because that was a hard fall. That was scary. That was a hard. Did anybody see it? Well, we wish him well. And
So for the question of the day, what do you think the falling off of a bike that has become stationary really means? Like, what's the deeper meaning to it that a 79-year-old man has fallen off of a stationary bike? Are we one more fall from this?
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you could then share the video, then everyone will get a good laugh, because we all need one. Am I right?
You're right. It's fact.
Now, maybe this is the first you're hearing of the fall heard around the Twitter, because we know the mainstream media did all they could to not advertise it. After all, if your pony falls down during the race, you tend to shoot it afterward. And their pony is basically already dead. They didn't want to add any insult to the injury. Though, according to Biden, there is no injury. And I'll show that in a moment. First, we need to look just a few turns of a tire earlier when Joe was seen riding his bike with his favorite doctor. And the two looked very happy as they celebrated their 45th wedding anniversary.
Some talking to the sun, and I said I didn't like the way he got things done, sleeping on the job. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling, but there's...
In addition to being the greatest doctor of all the doctors in all the land, Dr. Jill Biden apparently is also a psychic. It's like she knows what's about to happen, and so she's abandoning ship. Jill Biden, the doctor, chose to go the other way, except she is not a medical doctor, and she is useful for nothing. So Joe should really have a backup plan.
If you spend time alone and worry about how you get help if you fell, had a medical emergency or an accident, protect yourself the way these people do, with Life Call, the 24-hour emergency response service.
Good thing Joe is never alone, except all the times when he keeps falling, which is what he has done several times.
President Biden trips, not once, not twice, but 3 times as he tries to climb the stairs to Air Force One today.
And he's tired, so he falls asleep. It's a hard knock life for Joe, but hey, he's trying.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
That he does, and he does, and he does. Then he tells everyone about it to prove it is so.
Mr. President, how are you feeling? How are you feeling, sir? Good.
So glad Joe had his mask in his hand. It clearly helped him prevent his debilitation. Maybe he checked in with the other greatest doctor of all the doctors in all the land after the fall. Well, that fellow 81-year-old was out with COVID, and the other one, his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, clearly abandoned him. So Joe needs to find somebody to really help him out in these situations. He should take some advice from the prostitute in this scene from West Wing.
Tell your friend POTUS he's got a funny name, and he should learn how to ride a bicycle.
I would, but he's not my friend, he's my boss. It's not his name, it's his title.
POTUS?
President of the United States.
Does Joe know that? Does he know acronyms?
I'm also proud to have signed an executive order on my first day in office to combat discrimination against LGBTQI, plus Americans.
The wheels are turning in that head and ain't nobody home. And maybe the wheels have not exactly fallen off as I'm presenting, but when the house is on fire, are you really concerned about having left the toilet seat cover open? It is all going up in flames and down the crapper at the same time.
Merry Christmas! Was full.
The horrified look on Todd's face is the same look we all have. On the note of pumping chemical compounds, we better check in on today's gas prices.
I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me.
Hey, we have some good news for once. The gas prices are down 6 whole cents from last week. Now, that doesn't mean they are good, because they are still dang near a Lincoln for 1 gallon, and the pain at the pump is equivalent to Joe's fall, but I'll take something positive, because it's probably going to get worse. I mean, when you have the President of the United States telling the oil executives that they are sensitive because they put out a 10-point plan and are actually trying to do something about it, then yeah, it's pretty obvious it's going to get worse.
It's mildly sensitive. I didn't know they'd get their feelings hurt that quickly. Look, we need more refining capacity. This idea that they don't have oil to drill and to bring up is simply not true. This piece of the Republicans talking about Biden shut down fields, wrong. There are 9,000 of them, okay? So then we ought to be able to work something out whereby they're able to increase refining capacity and still not give up on transitioning to renewable energy. They're both within realm of possibility.
Realm of reality, maybe not so much. Oh, and it's not on just the gas rates you should be concerned with, even though Biden is now begging Congress for a temporary gas tax holiday, because there's another pandemic on its way, and you need to fund the government for something of the next pandemic.
We do need more money, but we don't just need more money for vaccines for children eventually. We need more money to plan for the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic. We have to think ahead. And that's not something the last outfit did very well. That's something we've been doing fairly well. That's why we need the money.
Oh, hell no! They haven't released the date of the next pandemic, but I'm guessing the sequel hits when estimated vote counts are too low. And maybe it'll buck right up with our impending recession.
60% of global CEOs, according to a new survey, expect a recession in the next 12 to 18 months. The risk increasing if gas climbs over $5 a gallon nationally, inflation remains high, and the Fed keeps raising interest rates.
You, team member of Healthy Republic, have used your common sense and have seen this coming. But for those who don't live in reality and who want to defend the Biden administration until death do them part, we'll listen to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen from a few months ago.
We've got a good, strong economy with an excellent outlook for the labor market and real activity going forward. Inflation is a problem, and it's one that we need to address, but I don't expect a recession in the United States.
She didn't expect a recession then, and she doesn't expect a recession right now.
I expect the economy to slow. It's been growing at a very rapid rate as the labor market has recovered and we have reached full employment. It's natural now that we expect a transition to steady and stable growth. But I don't think a recession is at all inevitable.
She's living in her own bubble, and that is about to burst. And also, she's 75, so I hope she's not getting on a bicycle anytime soon. Maybe that's the reason Joe really fell off his bike. His tires, like this economy, were just too inflated. But of course, talking such nonsense is what you Republicans do.
I promise. Even more likely than ever.
Not the majority of them aren't saying that. Come on, don't make things up, okay? Now you sound like a Republican politician. I'm joking. That was a joke. That was a joke. But all kidding aside, no, I don't think it is. I was talking to Larry Summers this morning, for example, and there's nothing inevitable about a recession.
Can you clean up that language a little bit as to how exactly you are going to avoid said recession?
So the way that we see this, and you've heard us talk about this, that we're in a moment of transition. We have seen we are in a unique situation with with the historical gains with our economy.
I'll take that as a no. But if you have anything else, then please go ahead.
The president's looking at an array of options to figure out how he's going to help give relief to the American public, especially as they are looking at gas prices at the pump. This is a #1 priority for the president. He's looking at an array of options. We don't have anything specific for you to share with you at this time. I can't lay out. I don't have anything to lay out on any outreach that we've made to Congress. The president, as you all know, understands the stress that the American public is feeling. So this is something that has been a complete priority for the president. I don't have anything specific to lay out about meetings coming up or meetings that have happened.
In other words, you have nothing. So there you have it. As the Freddie Mercury once said, I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike. So forget all your duties. Oh yeah. Yep, Joe was listening to that song while he rode his bicycle, rode his bike, forgot all his duties, and then promptly fell. I hope you don't fall, but instead give 3 other Fs. faith, family, and friends. And then share this video because, come on, man, it's another 2 F's. Flippin' funny. Until next time, stay healthy, America.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on all items at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Support this show by supporting a great American company. The formidable Greek philosopher, scientist, intellectual, and scholar Aristotle has contributed as much to the development of Western culture as any person in history over the last 3,000 years. The poet Dante referred to him as the master of those who know, while to many others he is simply known as the philosopher. Born in 384 BC in Stagira in northern Greece, Aristotle descended from a medical family. His father, Nicomachus, served as court physician to King Amyntas III of Macedon. Both of his parents died young, and at age 17, Aristotle was sent to Athens to enroll in Plato's academy. For the next 20 years, Aristotle both studied and taught in the academy, becoming the most gifted of Plato's mentees, even convincing the master to soften some of his deeply held philosophical positions. With Plato's death in 347 BC, Aristotle left the academy to live in Assos, where he married his wife Pythias, who would give birth to his only daughter, also named Pythias. In 342 BC, King Philip II of Macedon summoned Aristotle to his capital, Pella, to serve as tutor to his young son, Alexander. Destined to become Alexander the Great, one of the most accomplished military geniuses of history, Aristotle's tutelage would refine Alexander's character and add wisdom and discretion to his other natural, intellectual, and martial talents. Under the influence of Aristotle, Alexander studied literature and moral philosophy, which provided him with a broader understanding of human nature. His desire to cultivate virtue was so intense that he even slept with a copy of the Iliad under his pillow. So important was Aristotle's teaching that Alexander brought the philosopher with him on his military campaigns. But a single student, even one as impressive as Alexander, was not enough to exhaust the knowledge contained within Aristotle. At the age of 50, he opened his own school, known as the Lyceum. Complete with a library, this philosophical school brought together research students like himself called Peripatetics, which means those given to walking about. The name was derived from Aristotle's habit of pacing during his lectures. Aristotle and the Peripatetics conducted scientific and philosophical research, attempting to answer questions about human existence like, what is happiness? What is the good? And what is the nature of the soul? In the Nicomachean Ethics, named after his son Nicomachus, Aristotle lists 12 primary virtues that must be practiced actively in order to be fully realized in human behavior. For Aristotle, the highest virtues are moral and intellectual, and those who lack virtue are unfortunate. His endless search for knowledge and scientific truth led Aristotle to develop or considerably expand numerous intellectual and scientific disciplines. There is almost no category of knowledge or learning that Aristotle did not enhance in some way. Some of his most important and consistent work was formulating knowledge and arguments about the soul, which he argued separated living things from non-living things, and which dictated the higher capacities that distinguished human beings from other animals. After the death of his former student, Alexander the Great, in 323 BC, Aristotle was forced to flee Athens amid rising anti-Macedonian sentiment. Within a year, Aristotle would fall ill and die of an unexplained digestive complaint. Aristotle's soul may have left his earthly body 2,400 years ago, but his teachings, experiments, and intellectual achievements have endured to this day and helped set the foundations of Western thought and science. In his own words, he understood that the greatest virtues are those which are most useful to other persons.
And that'll do it for us today. I got to tell you, Alex Newman is a gem, and We are living in a rudderless government right now. It's time to wake up, America, while you still can affect change over who does what in this country. I'm Dr. Duke, and until next time, stay educated, my friends.